Isn't it time to get away, to jump in, to tee up, to get out and explore, to stay in and indulge, to feel the inspiration of wide open spaces? Whenever you're ready for a getaway, Palm Desert is where you'll be able to do it all, safely. Find your happy pace in Palm Desert.
Hi, and welcome to Palm Desert Food and Wine Virtual Experience, presented by the City of Palm Desert. I'm Tally Fantini with Palm Springs Life. We're so thrilled tonight to have Gale Gand, James Beard Award winner and Food Network celebrity chef, to cook brunch anytime with Gale Gand, showing us how to prepare some French classics. Remember, Gale will be at Palm Desert Food and Wine in person in March 25th through 27th, 2022 at the Gardens on El Paseo. She'll be featured at Brunch with Bubbles and Spritz on Sunday, March 27th, and also at a demo at our tasting tents on Saturday, March 26th. Look forward to seeing you all there, and without further ado, please welcome Gale Gand.
My brother has a house there in Palm Springs, and so he's got some fruit trees that I've been able to enjoy and pick things from. So we're going to utilize some of those oranges maybe that you've got in your yard and do an upside down orange cake, okay? Really pretty at the end. Sounds simple, right? It is simple actually to make. I'm going to walk you through this, and hopefully some of you are cooking along with me, but if not, that's okay. You can do it at another time. But let's get started with that recipe. I'm just going to grab my recipes real quick. And if you don't have a glass of wine, grab one of those too. That's an important ingredient to working in the kitchen always. And I was able to find one of my Palm Desert Food and Wine chef coats. My closet has a bunch of them because I've been to the festival so many times. I always think, though, it should be spelled with two S's, not one, and be Palm Desert Food and Wine Festival versus Palm Desert. That's just made up. All right, let's get started with the orange skillet cake. So there's sort of two things to it. There's the oranges that we're going to cook in some butter and brown sugar and sort of caramelize them in the pan. And there's a batter we're going to make. So let's go ahead and get the oranges started. I've got my little burner here on medium heat. And I've got 4 tablespoons of butter in here. We've got another 8 tablespoons of butter that we're going to use for the cake batter that's been softening. I had it out since this afternoon. So let's go ahead and melt that butter, the 4 tablespoons of butter, and we're going to add to it some brown sugar. So we're going to make kind of like a caramel in the pan with the butter and brown sugar. And then we'll lay some orange slices in that and cook them just a little bit. You know, they have some time in the oven too that they can cook. So, but we're going to give them a little pan time, and then we're going to pour the batter on top of that. So I just want to look and see how much we need. I think we need 1/3 of a cup. Yes, 1/3 of a cup of light brown sugar. If you've got dark brown only, that's fine. That'll work too. Dark brown sugar just has more molasses in it than light brown sugar. That's the thing that makes brown sugar brown. And actually, when you first take sugar cane and juice it and crystallize that juice, that already has the molasses in it. And then they separate out the white sugar from the molasses, then put it back together in certain ratios to get light brown sugar or dark brown sugar. So I've got a packed cup here of dark brown sugar. I'm going to go ahead and add it to my pan, to the butter. And let's stir that together. Now, the pan I'm using, this is actually, I think I say a 10-inch in the recipe, but this is actually a 9-inch pan. I didn't have a 10-inch, but it's a 9-inch saute pan that's got rounded sides to it. You want to use a pan that you can actually put in the oven. So either one that's got a handle that can go in the oven, or this pan has a handle that can't go in the oven, but the handle comes off. So at the point where we put the batter in here, I'm going to take this handle off and stick the whole thing in the oven. So go ahead and stir your butter and brown sugar together. And while that's kind of coming together and cooking, let's go ahead and slice the oranges. So I've got a cutting board here on my work surface, but you can see it's pretty slippery, kind of dangerous. So what I do to make that a little safer is just take a damp paper towel, lay it down on the table, and then go ahead and put your cutting board over it. And now it's really secure. It's really safe. Okay? Want everyone to be safe. So now we're going to take some oranges. We've got, we need 3 oranges for the whole recipe. 1 we're going to use for rind, and 2 we're going to use for slices here. So go ahead and wash them, but the most important thing is to take that label off them, okay? You know, they all come with labels on now. So go ahead and make sure you remove the label. And then with a sharp knife, we're going to cut it into slices. Now, if your knife's not sharp, go ahead and get a sharpening steel out and go ahead and try to sharpen your knife. If you can, make sure someone's watching you while you do it because you look super cool. You know, sharpening your knife, try to like look away and talk to them while you do it. They look real cash about it. All right, so what we're going to do while this is sort of bubbling up is we're going to go ahead and slice the oranges. And then we're going to lay them in the pan kind of overlapping, like overlapping rings of orange. So go ahead and slice that orange. I cut the end off. There's not really much there. But go ahead and cut like 1/4-inch slices. And this is a navel orange. So you want an orange that doesn't have seeds if possible. So not a juicing orange, okay? But we are using the peel and all. And if you do this a little later in the season, you might be able to get some blood oranges, and it's super pretty with blood oranges. So wait for, like, the next time you see blood oranges in the store, grab them and do this cake with it because it is so pretty. So let me just slice that second one here. And I see my butter and my brown sugar is kind of bubbling. So I've got it on like a medium heat. Not too hot. You don't want to burn it, but you do want to make sort of like a caramel. So each orange is giving me about 7 slices. Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do is lay these slices in the pan. I'm going to start in the middle, place one in the middle, and then I'm going to go ahead and overlap them around the side of the pan, okay? And I'm overlapping them maybe by like 1/2 inch. As soon as I get them in here, I will give you a peek of what they look like. And that last one, I'm going to lift up the orange that's in there to kind of tuck it under. All right, let me show you what that looks like. So see how these are all fanned out? They've got one in the middle and then oranges all around the side. So go ahead and give those a little time in the butter. And then we'll go ahead and get the batter going, okay? I'm going to actually turn my heat down a little bit. I just want them to sort of slowly simmer in that butter, get a little juicy, get a little jammy, and then they'll finish their cooking in the oven. So let's go ahead and get the batter going, okay? First thing is butter. So I've got 8 tablespoons of butter or 1 stick of butter or 1/2 cup of butter. That's going in the mixer there. And I'm using a whisk attachment for this. Go ahead and turn your mixer on. If you don't have a KitchenAid mixer, that's okay. You can just do it in a bowl with a hand mixer. And if you've got nice room temperature butter like I do, pretty soft, you don't really have to wait to add the sugar. So I'm going to go ahead and add 3/4 cup of sugar going in. I'm hoping you guys have the recipes in front of you, but if you don't, go ahead and put in the chat that you need to know some of the quantities or if you have some questions. Now, while that's mixing together, let's go ahead and get the dry ingredients mixed together. So I've got 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. This is unbleached all-purpose flour. I use unbleached just because I don't really want to put more bleach in the water system. We don't really need it, and it doesn't make the cake any better to use bleached flour. So I used unbleached flour. I've got 1.5 cups here. We're going to add to that 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Okay, so the leavening in this cake is going to be baking powder. And I'm going to level that off. Level off the leavening. 1, and then let's see, 1/2 teaspoon. Here we go. So 1.5 teaspoons going right in with my flour, and then also the salt's going to go in there too. I've got some nice bubbling going on here, so I'm going to go ahead and turn off my oranges. So they're getting like a little tender, little transparent. It's perfect. It's just what we want. And then we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I've got my half teaspoon here, but I just filled it halfway, okay? That's going in with the flour. Go ahead and mix those dry ingredients together. You can do it without getting it on the counter. You're probably more talented than me. I end up with flour on my counter usually. Okay. So just try to mix in that baking powder as much as you can. It's hard to tell when it's mixed in because it's white and the flour is white and the salt is white. So just kind of guess when it's mixed in there. Okay. All right. I'm gonna guess that that's mixed in. So let's just make sure that the butter and the sugar are creamed well. Mine aren't yet. You might have to scrape the bowl a little bit. But not yet. So I'm just getting my sugar and my butter mixed together, which for me was a snack food as a child. I used to just mix butter and sugar together, put it in a jar, keep it in my room, and secretly eat it under my bed at night. So now you know something very personal about me that most people don't know. We're gonna go ahead and mix the eggs in now. We've got 2 eggs. So first egg going in. And these are not eggs from my chickens. I have 10 backyard chickens who right now only one of them is laying. It's winter. We've got short days here in Chicago and it's cold. So they've decided they're taking a break. So I don't know can you guys see these eggs over here? That's from one of my chickens. Everyone else is freeloading right now. So I'm using store-bought eggs. That's fine. Everyone deserves a little break, right? Even my chickens. All right, that egg's in. Let's get that second egg in. So this is just like a nice vanilla butter cake that we're making. We're going to season it or flavor it with a little bit of vanilla extract next. And I'm going to get out a spatula because I do think we need a little scrape. So go ahead. If you're cooking along with me, lower your bowl. Scrape it a little bit. I've got some butter sort of piling up in the bottom there that's not mixing well. Good. Much better. All right, now we've got to add the vanilla extract. So I'll lecture you a little bit about vanilla extract. You want to make sure that you're using pure vanilla extract, not imitation. You know, I know vanilla extract is expensive, but we're only using a tiny bit. We're going to use 2 teaspoons. So, it goes a long way and it's worth spending the money. I know this is kind of a jumbo bottle because I go through a lot of it. But my favorite brand is Nielsen Massey. They're actually a local company for me. They're here outside of Chicago in Waukegan, Illinois. And they're one of the only vanilla companies that does a cold press process. So it doesn't destroy any of the 347 different flavor components in vanilla. So it retains all of that. So their vanilla is the most complex. It's the best. And not only is it the best here in America, but they have a second factory in the Netherlands that services Europe. So they're really known as the best premier vanilla. So if you want the top vanilla brand, get Nielsen Massey. I don't work for them, I promise. Their stuff is just so good. That's all I use. All right, so go ahead, 2 teaspoons of vanilla in. And then we also want to add some orange rind. I'm going to grate some orange rind in there. About half a teaspoon, so that's not going to be the whole orange, but some of it. So we're going to get some of that nice orange flavor right into the batter. So I've got a microplane here. That's what pastry chefs and sort of, good cooks use to grate rind now. So go ahead and I kind of place it. I'm going to lower my bowl. I kind of hold it over the bowl and then you kind of rub the fruit over the microplane. And what happens is the rind kind of comes out the back of the microplane. So half a teaspoon of that. I think that's going to be about half the orange. Go around the orange half a time. And that should be about a half a teaspoon. Did you hear that big thud? Kids are upstairs. This is my home kitchen. Thank you for coming to my home kitchen. All right, let's get that orange rind in. Very good. I'm going to go ahead and take this off the burner because it's still kind of bubbling away, even though I turned it off a while ago. So now what we want to do is we want to add the dry ingredients alternating with wet ingredients. The wet ingredients is going to be a half a cup of milk, and our dry ingredients is, what we just mixed together. So go ahead and get half a cup of milk out. I'm going to use whole milk, but if you have 2%, that's fine. Skim milk is fine. Really, any milk will do. Even almond milk, or I know we already put butter in there, so if you've got dairy issues, it's too late. But if you need to use some other kind of milk or like to use other kinds of milk, that's fine too. So what we're going to do is add some of the dry ingredients. We're going to add, let's see, how do I like to do this? We're just going to alternate. So usually it's like 1/3 dry, half the wet, second third of dry, the other half of the wet, last third of the dry. So 5 additions. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1/3 of the dry ingredients. And I know we used to always do 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 of everything, but I think because of food television, they reduced it to 5 additions instead of 6, just to save like the 4 seconds. TV's funny that way.
Gale, we have a question.
Yeah, what is it?
Can you use half and half?
Sure, yum. You can also pour it on your cereal. It's really good. Absolutely. If that's all you have in the house, that's fine. Yeah, it'll just up the, butter or fat content a little bit. So I went ahead and added half the milk. Is it like that? All right. And now we'll add another 1/3 of the dry. And I know you mentioned, I think you said formerly of the Food Network. So I had a show on the Food Network for 8 years, and then it was on Cooking Channel for 2 called Sweet Dreams. It was their first ever all dessert, all pastry show. It's back on the air. It's on Discovery Plus. So if you guys want to watch me in Sweet Dreams, though I'm 20 pounds lighter and 20 years younger, but you can watch, I think season 5 is airing right now. You can live stream it on Discovery Plus.
Oh, that's great. We're going to check it out, Gale.
Good. All right. I added the rest of the milk, mixing it. Just kind of doing it on low because you don't want the flour to go everywhere. And you also don't want to overwork the flour or toughen it. Flour's got protein in it, and if you agitate that protein, it can turn to gluten, which is sort of a rubbery, elastic substance, which is great for bread, as bread needs to expand and stretch and not break, but not good for cake. So with cake, we don't want to agitate the protein too much. We don't want to get that gluten going. Let's just get that last bit of dry in, and then I'm going to give it one more scrape. Clean up on aisle 7 here. All right, I'm turning this off. I still have, let's see if I can show you. I still have some flour on the walls of my bowl, but I'm going to fold that in just so we kind of do it gently for that final bit. All right, so take your spatula and go ahead and do a little folding. One of my favorite things to do. So I'm just going to go along the wall of the bowl, kind of lift up my spatula. So it's sort of like stirring, but not exactly. And just kind of fold until you don't see dry ingredients anymore. Okay. So we've got a beautiful vanilla orange cake batter here. Smells divine, right?
Yummy.
Yours is looking like that, I hope. All right, let's go ahead and get it in the pan.
Gale, someone wants to know, what made you want to be a pastry chef?
That butter and sugar that I was eating under my bed when I was little. No. You know what happened was I was actually I was minding my own business. I was a silver and goldsmith in college. That's what I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts from RIT. And there was a lot of photo students in the next, down the hall was the photo and film department. And I happened to have a lot of friends in there who wanted to be food photographers. And so I like to bake. My mother was a great pie baker. So they asked me if I would make, some apple tarts and make this and make that for their food photography assignments. And it turned out I just loved doing it. And my after school job during college, I was a waitress, which I give great waitress. I love waitressing, but I got thrown in the kitchen one night and found out that that was my true love. I just want to show you one step that I'm doing here. I'm going to take a pastry brush and just kind of brush some of that butter in the pan up the walls of the pan. So that's going to help the cake release later when we try to turn this baby out, okay? So I'm just sort of taking the butter that's down in the pan and brushing it up the walls. All right, let's go ahead and get that batter in and get this baby in the oven. So I've got my oven preheated. I hope you do too. 350 degrees. Later, we're going to turn it up a little higher for the salmon. But for right now, we just need it 350. And you want to try to cover all these orange slices with the batter. Okay. There we go. So now we're going to spread it out carefully. You don't want to like shove those oranges, out of alignment, but go ahead and kind of spread the batter. There's, that caramel butter in there, which is going to soak into the cake as it bakes. But you want to make sure you cover all those orange slices. And then we're going to get this in the oven. We're going to bake it for about 35 to 40 minutes till it's firm in the center, till we, touch it in the center and it bounces back sort of. It'll also get kind of golden brown, but I'll show you as we bake it how it looks. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and take this handle off and just unscrew it. This is a brand of pans called Eurocast, and they have removable handles, which is kind of fun, right? That is hot though, so I'm going to grab it with some pot holders and let's get it in the oven. 350 degrees. We're going to bake it about 35 to 40 minutes. But what I like to do is set my timer for about half the time. Okay, I just want to check. Yep, oven's at 350. So let's check. Let's set it for 20 minutes. That's sort of half the max baking time. We'll check it after 20 minutes and just see how it's doing. I want to make sure, it's not like burning at the back and that my oven temperature didn't go up really high, or, sometimes when you work in restaurants, someone might walk by your oven and knock the knob and turn it off or something. So I always like to check things as they're baking, just to make sure that nothing went off the rails that you weren't, expecting. So just to go back to that question of how I got into baking, I think when I was 19, I started waitressing, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I loved describing the food. I loved, the word restaurant comes from the French verb that means to restore. And I took that very seriously, that like you were there for me to restore you to your best self. So it was kind of like a place people came for refuge. And my job as the waitress was to sort of anticipate your needs before you even knew you had them, and explain the food to you and help you really pick, the best thing for you, like nothing worse than menu remorse, right? Where you like ordered wrong. So, and then I had to describe the dishes, what was in them and stuff. And so one night, one of the line cooks didn't show up for work. It was at a vegetarian restaurant that I was working at in Cleveland, Ohio, in Cleveland Heights. It was called Light of Yoga. It was a yoga bookstore and vegetarian restaurant. And I was 19. And one night, what cooks do, they do a no show, no call. They just don't show up for their shift. We know what that's like now, right? That's happening everywhere, all over the country. So my manager looked at me and said, Gale, can you cook? And I said, no, I'm from the North Shore of Chicago. We make reservations. I was a sort of privileged white girl who didn't really know how to cook that much. I had baked with my mom, but I hadn't cooked very much. And she threw an apron at me and she said, you can cook now, get in the kitchen. So basically, I did not choose this as a profession. It chose me. So I got in the kitchen. I was absolutely terrified for about 6 or 7 seconds. I'd never been in a professional kitchen before behind the line. And second, number 8, I have this weird sense of calm come over me. And I get choked up every time I talk about it. It was like I had found my home. It was like I was speaking a language I don't remember learning, but I was fluent in it. It made perfect sense to me. I mean, and a lot of what we do in the kitchen is, physics and chemistry. So had I paid attention in physics or in chemistry class in high school, that would have been helpful, but I didn't even do that. So it's unexplainable why I felt so comfortable behind the line in the kitchen. And partly I think it might just be that because I was a waitress, I could describe all the dishes. So it was sort of like the waitress in me described the dish to the person cooking, to the cook in me, and got it right somehow. But I was like, I found my medium. And I remember I called my dad, I called my parents back in Chicago, because I had found what I wanted to do with my life. I mean, that was an important moment. My dad was a musician. His name was Bob Gand. And I don't know if you guys know my brother, Gale Gand, who's a musician there in Palm Springs. But our dad was a folk singer, a musician. So I called my dad. I said, Dad, guess what? I know what I want to do. I know what I want to be. And he's like, what? I said, I want to be a chef. And he said, oh, Gay, it's not a very reliable business. And I said, you're a folk singer. Why are you criticizing? You're a musician. And he goes, well, I'm a folk singer, but I'm a jazz trumpet player too. I'm like, that makes it worse. So my dad was probably trying to save me from a life of unpredictability and, economic strife or whatever. But anyway, I loved it too much. And without his blessing, I went into it. I did finish my degree in college in metalsmithing, but always worked in restaurants the whole time. And finally, it was my 27th birthday, I gave myself the gift of letting myself do this for a living instead of being a silver and goldsmith. So it was really a struggle, in those days. This is like in the 70s, Wolfgang Puck hadn't really legitimized us yet. No one thought of chef, no one wanted to know a chef. When you were at a party and if you said you were a chef, no one talked to you. Now it's like, ooh, tell me all about your life. So it's like being a rock star now. So it was a really good time to be a chef. So that's sort of the story, the background of how that all happened. All right, should we move on to the next dish? We've got this salmon dish, which I think makes a great brunch, a great, nice, light dinner. So I'm hoping that this is something that's going to be in your repertoire for a while. Let's just look at the recipe real quick. It's a pounded salmon paillard. Paillard is like a thinly pounded thing with a cucumber mango relish. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and pound our salmon. So I had you get 2 pieces of salmon, which equals about 3/4 of a pound. Half a pound to 3/4 of a pound. We are going to take the skin off though. So that's why it's a little more than, half a pound for 2 portions. Just open this up. Went to Whole Foods, got some salmon there. I do not like sockeye salmon. That's not, I find it to be kind of tight and firm. For this dish, you're going to want to get like Icelandic or Alaskan, but not sockeye. Okay. So I've got a couple pieces here. Actually, I have one big whole piece. So I'm going to cut that in half right now. And let's see. I'm going to use a thinner knife for it. And let's get that one sharpened. So this piece of salmon, this is actually, let's see what the weight was. I told them like 3/4 of a pound, but I think he gave me about a pound. And yeah, it's a little over a pound. So I'm going to go ahead and take off one portion. All right. So I'm just going to make one paillard for you. But if you're cooking for more than one person, go ahead and do 2. Let's wrap this up. So I cut off a piece that's about 1/3 of a pound. Okay. But it's still got the skin on. We're going to go ahead and take the skin off. And just wrap this up and get that back in the fridge. Let's get the skin off this. And I see a couple scales on the top there, so I'm going to pull those off as well. I'm going to use a pretty thin knife to get that skin off. And I'm going to just start. There's a little layer of fat at the side here. I'm going to kind of cut down and then just cut across the bottom. And I'm sort of pushing my knife down towards my cutting board just to get it as close to the skin as possible. And I've got the skin secured with my thumb, and I'm just running my knife across the bottom side of that piece of fish. And cut it off pretty tight. It did good. So here's the skin cut off. We don't need that. We've got a plastic bag, though, that I'm going to put scraps in, and then that'll go right out to the garbage because I don't want that to stay in the house. Here's our piece of salmon, okay? And now what we're going to do is put that piece of salmon between a couple pieces of plastic wrap. I've got some scales on my board here. I'm just trying to wipe them off. So go ahead and get out some plastic wrap. This is the Costco version. Let me just take out a piece. All right. Oh. And then I'm going to put the piece of salmon right on the plastic wrap in the middle. Okay. And now we're going to put a second piece over the salmon. So we're sandwiching it between two pieces of plastic. All right. And now we're going to pound that salmon really thin, about 1/4 inch thick. There's a couple different tools you can use to pound salmon or to make paillards. This is like an Italian meat pounder. It's like a big, heavy disc with a handle on it. You could also use a meat mallet. You want to use the smooth side, not the rough side. But if you don't have either of those, you can also just use a rolling pin. This is my great-grandma Jenny's rolling pin that I always keep nearby. So feel free to use any of those tools. If you're using a rolling pin, you're just going to kind of pound it. You want to get it thinner and sort of big and flat. Now I'm going to actually, let's use everything. Let's try it. Here's that one. That's kind of fun. So you kind of pound it. But you also, let's try the mallet and see. The mallet too. Go ahead and pound the salmon. Right now it's about 1/2 inch thick. That's thicker than I want it. I want it about 1/4 inch thick. I'm trying to make it sort of wider, not longer. We're going to put it on a plate, and then we're going to broil it. It's going to cook so quick. It's going to cook in like 2 minutes. Go ahead and just keep pounding it. Get it nice and thin. This is the kind of thing you can do the pounding early in the day. So say you're doing this for a brunch. Go ahead and, pound your salmon out earlier in the day, and then just keep it between the plastic wrap until you're ready to cook it. Because the cooking is 2 minutes. It's so fast. Keep them, just in this plastic wrap in the fridge until you're ready to use it. Almost 1/4 inch. So this is probably the hardest part. It's just a little tedious pounding out your salmon, but you want to do it, gradually, gently. It's about 1/4 inch thick. So there it is, all pounded out. Got a little straggler here. Hold on, let me get that in the plastic. I'm going to loop that around a little bit. There we go. Great. So now I'm going to go ahead and just put this on a plate right in the plastic for now. And then later we'll get it on the plate. But let's go ahead and put it in the fridge while we make the relish. Oh, do you want to see that? But I don't know if you can see it better. There it is, pounded out. Okay. Just want to check our cake. It's been in there about 10, 12 minutes at this point. All right, so now we're going to work on the relish. I'm just going to wipe down. Got a little bit of salmon. And because I had, that fish on the board, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually flip my board to the other side. And flip it over. The other side is still nice and clean. But we can put the fishy knife away. Don't need that. So I'm going to be cooking with a couple different chefs at the James Beard Brunch, which is going to be on Sunday, I believe, March 27th. I'll also be doing a demo sometime over the weekend. I think maybe on Saturday, but we're not sure yet. And a book signing. So I'll have my brunch books there. Actually, let me show you that. Sort of famous for brunch. So I have a brunch book, and I'll have copies of it there that I'm happy to personalize and sign for you. Okay, I think I'll also have my lunch book there with me too. But I thought maybe you guys would like to see what a James Beard Award looks like. Because I got not one, but two, which is nice. This is what they look like. Here's my 2 James Beard Awards. And usually I travel with them. So if you guys are there at the brunch, you might be able to try these on and do a selfie with them. But one is for outstanding pastry chef, and one is for best service at my restaurant. So I had a fine dining fancy pants restaurant called True for 18 years here in Chicago. When we closed, we had 2 Michelin stars at the end. So, really high-end service, the best. My staff was the best. So it's very nice having 2 James Beard Awards. They're kind of like Oscars for chefs. And when I'm, say I'm like interviewing for a consulting job and they want to, talk about money and what am I charging, I'll just bring out my James Beard Awards and say, gee, where should I put these down while we talk about my fees? The other thing they're really nice for, if my husband ever criticizes my cooking, like if he says, really, that cheese with that pasta, I'll be like, gee, honey, I don't know what your James Beard Awards are, but mine are right here. So I can kind of use it, as ammo. Also, best service award. So if he questions like, really, that wine in that glass, I just bring the other one out. So very handy to have around. So I try to keep in the kitchen just in case. Besides the James Beard Brunch and the demo that I'll probably be doing somewhere in one of the tents, usually I teach a class as well. Sometimes it's Savory Spice. We're not sure if that's where it's going to be this year or if it's going to be in a different location, but I'm going to do a sort of a smaller, intimate class where we bake together and there's tastes from everything that I make. We haven't picked the subject yet, though. So if you guys have something you want to learn about, like I think we've done a vanilla 101 class, we've done a chocolate 101 class. We did a spice class once where I think we talked about cinnamon and nutmeg and kind of went through all the heady pumpkin pie spices. I was thinking about doing a tea class or tea and spices class there, but we'll see. But if you have any suggestions, go ahead and put it in the chat right now, and maybe they can let me know of what it is that you guys want to learn. I do a ton of teaching. I actually have a virtual cooking school. It's called Kitchen Sisters Cooking School. Obviously, the website is kitchensisterscookingschool.com. We do classes. I usually do 2 a month. And then my partner, Jess Dawson, does classes for kids as well on it. And right now, I think like next week, we've got a holiday food gifts class coming up on Thursday night. If anyone wants to sign up for that class, they're $40. They're not very much money. And we do a cook along. I send out the recipes ahead of time so you can get a grocery list going, have the ingredients if you want to cook along with me, or if you just want to pour a glass of wine and watch, that's fine too. We've got some classes coming up in January, except I can't remember what they are. Go to the website and you'll see. And also we have recordings from all the previous classes. So you can buy recordings too if you want to take the beef Wellington class but couldn't come, or want to take the Italian 7 fishes class but wasn't able to attend that, the Mexican dessert class, the how to shoe class. So there's videos for all those. I think they're $35 for videos. So maybe I'll see you at one of those classes if you can't wait till March till I'm there at Palm Desert. You can take a Kitchen Sisters Cooking School class with me, and it'll be just like this. It'll be kind of like this. Okay. All right, let's get that relish going. We're going to need some ingredients. We need a cucumber. We need a ripe mango, which for me was not easy to find. Probably not a problem for you guys, but here in Chicago, that was a little bit of a challenge. But I did it. I got an organic one. We're going to need some red onion. And then for the rest, they're going to need a little bit of olive oil, some lime juice, and some chopped cilantro or parsley. Either one is fine. Go ahead. I'm going to get out my cilantro. Where is it? I never seem to be able to use it all up, though. You know, when you buy it, it's so inexpensive. Like a bunch of cilantro is 59 cents. Try to make as much guacamole as possible and, you know, use it in like a coconut soup or whatever. But I always usually end up throwing some of it out. It doesn't keep as long as parsley. Parsley, when I get a bunch like this, I can rinse it in some water to get the sand out of it or dirt. I can shake it off and put it in a Ziploc bag and it'll last me like a month. But cilantro is not like that. Cilantro is much more delicate. So if you've got some ways to use up cilantro, let me know, okay? All right, let's see. What else do we need? Some salt and pepper, which we've got. All right, so let's go ahead and make this relish. We're basically going to just combine everything in a bowl. We're going to use half the cucumber. We're going to peel it, and we're going to seed it, and then we'll dice it, okay? So I'm going to find myself another knife. I keep going through knives. Oh, here's one. Got it. So just half the cucumber we're going to use for the relish. And this is just a regular cucumber. It's not an English or a seedless or a herbless, I think they call them sometimes. I just got a regular cucumber because they're cheap right now. I think it's like 59 cents. So let's go ahead and peel that. And I heard my oven beep. So that's our first 20 minutes. Almost done. So we'll go over and check and see. My oven temperature never stays consistent. You'd think a pastry chef would have an oven that was like spot on, but actually it kind of runs the gamut. So I have a thermometer hanging in it to just double check it all the time. So I'm peeled this cucumber. I'm going to cut it in half long ways. All right. And that's going to expose the inside, which are where the seeds are. And then I'm going to take a spoon that's a little bit pointy, just like a teaspoon, and go ahead and dig out the seeds. So just run that spoon down the cucumber and it'll, you know, just remove the seeds. It'll make like a little boat almost of cucumber. Since my timer went off, let's go check our cake and see how it's doing. It won't be done yet, but we'll kind of see it's going fast, it's going slow. Ooh, it's going fast. Hold on. It's not done in the middle, but it's kind of round around the edges and it's kind of puffed up. So that looks good. Happy with that. So let's go ahead and set the timer for, let's set it for 10 minutes. I don't think it'll be done in 10 minutes, but I don't want to overbake it. At 10 minutes, we'll be at 30 minutes total. And I said 35 to 40. So I'll probably do 10 more minutes and then 5 more minutes, and then we'll probably be done. Okay? It'll come out. All right, let's go ahead and get the seeds out of the second cucumber, or second half of the cucumber. And I do need some kind of container. Let me get a bowl because I like to compost stuff. The funny thing is, you know, when I use my compost in the summer on my garden, I end up with things I didn't really plant, like cucumbers. This is why, because I compost the seeds. I'll show them to you later if we have time, but like I have something called compost squash, which are these random squash that I have no idea what kind they are or where they came from. And I call them compost squash because it's from my compost that I sprinkle on my garden, and then these random plants come up. So fun, like mystery squash, right? So that's where the cucumber is going to come from in the garden. So let's go ahead and dice this up. I'm going to cut it into really thin strips. The strips are about 1/4 inch thick. So we're going to end up with little cubes of cucumber. So I've cut these strips pretty thin, right? Long ways. Let's do it on both halves. And then we'll cut across to make a dice, to dice it. And you see I'm kind of curling my fingers in so I don't give myself a manicure as I cut down the cucumber. Sort of tucking in my nails, tucking in the tips of my fingers. So let's go ahead and cut across. So these are about a 1/4 inch thick or big. So nice little cubes, little crunchy cubes of cucumber for our relish. So that's the size. So I'm going to try to cut everything about that size. I'm going to try to match the mango and the red onion to that size. What we do need is we're going to need a bowl to mix this in. And I've got one here, but I just used it to make some orange spice pecans. So I'm going to wash that out. Give that a rinse. Clean that up because the sugar is kind of sticking to it. There we go. I want to do it in a glass bowl so you guys can see it as I mix it. So you don't have to make it in a glass bowl. It's just kind of nice to do it in glass so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and place all that cucumber we just diced up into the bowl. All right, let's do the mango next. So how much do we want? We want half a mango, peeled and diced. So I'm going to go ahead and peel it first, okay? And I don't know how ripe this is going to be, but I'm just going to go down. I'm going to peel the whole thing because we'll have the rest for a snack later. Okay? So I'm just kind of going down the outside as close to the, outside as I can. So you want to take off as little meat as possible as you're peeling it. But a peeler, like the peeler I used for the cucumber, I don't think that's going to be sharp enough to really get through this peel. This peel is like a little leathery, so you are going to have to use a knife to get through it. And once we've got that peel off, we're going to fillet the mango, which means we're going to cut it away from its pit, okay? Sort of like when you fillet a fish and cut it away from its bones, we're going to cut this mango away from its bones. Some nice compost. It's going to make some beautiful dirt later in the year. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to clean off this end a little bit. It's not the best mango, but it'll have to do. So I'm just going to cut just above the pit, like just above where the stem was, and cut off, like I hit the pit there. I've got a little bit on there, but we'll trim that off, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and slice that. I'm gonna cut it about a 1/4 inch up. So I'm doing like thin slices, almost like mango steaks. And then we'll cut down strips. And then we'll cut across and get that same little dice that we had to match the cucumber. Right? Let's do this one, cut down every 1/4 inch. You guys staying with me? Yeah? And now I'm going to cut across.
We sure are. We're right here, Gale.
Nice. Okay. Tell me if I need to slow down or anything.
Perfect.
Good. All right. Go cut across so you've got the same size dice as your cucumber. And then go ahead and add it to the bowl. Now we're going to do the red onion. So I say to use a 1/4 cup of diced red onion. This is obviously would make way more than that, so we don't need this whole thing. But there were no small red onions in the store. But to get it ready, I'm going to just cut that root end off, cut the stem end off. I'm going to cut it in half. Definitely aren't going to need half. And then I'll cut that in half again. Put that aside. And I'm thinking even half of this will make about a quarter cup. Okay. So we don't need as much onion as we have of everything else. But go ahead and take the peel off. And if you have to take like a whole layer off just to get the peel, that's, to get that peel off, that's fine. There's a lot of layers on an onion, as we know. So don't feel bad about losing one just to get rid of the peel. And my onion here has a little kind of wet spot in the center. So I'm pulling the center off. But let's go ahead and slice this. Same thing, like a 1/4 inch slices, and then we'll cut the other direction to get it diced. Okay. So I'm going to cut down, and that'll give me dice. Beautiful. Okay. You see any pieces that are like a little bigger? But, red onion, even though it's onion, is pretty mild. It's, nice raw. So I'm thinking that's about a 1/4 cup. That's going in. Now we want to do some lime juice. So we need a tablespoon of lime juice. And I don't know what condition this little lime is in. It might be kind of dry. So I have a backup here just in case. But we're just going to juice the lime. I'm going to use one of these juicers, which has holes in the bottom. When I first got this kind, I thought you stuck the citrus fruit in that way because it's the same shape as the juicer, but that's not what you should do. It's sort of counterintuitive, but you want it cut face down. So you want the cut face of the fruit to be where the holes are so the juice can come out. All right. So we want about a tablespoon. So I'm just going to sort of squeeze this at one side of the bowl. And that actually looks like a tablespoon to me. We'll taste it later and see if it needs more. And I think that might be enough. And now we want 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I've got extra virgin olive oil in here. I like to have it in a squirt bottle because it's easier to just, put in a pan when you're making sauteing vegetables or whatever. So 1, 2, sort of estimating what a tablespoon is. And then we want to put in a tablespoon of chopped cilantro. So let's go ahead and just cut off the leaves and let's chop it up. Oh, the smell of this. Oh, I just love the smell of cilantro. Now, if there is that thing where some people, cilantro tastes like soap. It's like a genetic thing that their taste buds taste it differently. So if you're one of those people that cilantro tastes like soap, go ahead and use parsley in place of the cilantro, okay? Just kind of chop it up. Let's go check the oven. That's 30 minutes on the cake. Let's see how we're doing. Ooh, we might be done. Ooh, almost. I'm going to give it like 5 more minutes and then we're done. Okay. So that cake's coming along great. So let's go ahead and finish up. Cilantro going in. And let's stir these together. So nice, fresh, bright relish. I'm looking at this thinking like, what would be fun in there? Some red pepper. So either like red bell pepper or do you have any of those little, let's see if I can, those little sweet peppers? I don't even know what they're called, but I don't think I have any red ones. I only have the orange ones. But if you had some of these little guys that were red, you could do like red pepper rings. That would be really nice in this. Let's give it a taste. We actually need to do a little bit of salt and pepper. So let me season it. A little bit of pepper. Don't need a lot of salt because we've got that lime juice, which really provides, sharpness and acid. Let's go ahead and give that a toss. Look at how pretty that color is. I don't know if you can see the purple, but okay, I'm just going to give a quick taste, see if it needs any more lime or anything. I feel like, oh, it's good. My surprise one, it's good. I think it could use more lime though. So I'm going to go ahead and do the second half. Very good. It's not cold is the thing. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in the fridge while we cook the salmon. Let me get another spoon. Don't want to double dip, right? Taste the cilantro. God, it's like so fresh tasting. It's like summer in a bowl. Holy moly. All right, little taste again. Beautiful. Just perfect. All right, I'm going to stick this in the fridge. Get that nice and cold. So the last thing we need to do is get this salmon onto the plate so that we can broil it. Move some of these things over. All right, so what we're going to do, so there's like a skin side to this salmon. You know, that bottom side is the skin side, right? You can kind of see the brown. I'm going to peel off the plastic wrap from the skin side and lay it on the plate. And then go ahead and pull off the top. So what we're ending up with is a piece of pounded salmon that's on that plate. Put this in that plastic bag. All that salmon stuff's going out into the garbage. All right, so we're going to broil this. We've got to heat that broiler up. Hold on, I got to see how hot. Oh, we want to brush the filet with a little bit of olive oil, and we're going to season it with salt and pepper, and then we're going to put it really close to our heating element. So we want to get our broiler going. As soon as that cake comes out, I'm going to turn my broiler on and get that top element heating. We're going to put this plate underneath it and cook it for like 2 minutes, and that's it. So go ahead and just do like a little bit of olive oil. So it doesn't really need much because it's, got its own natural oils, but let's go ahead and just season it lightly. A little bit of kosher salt. I like to use kosher salt because it's big and chunky and crunchy, and you can see it feathers well. And then a little bit of pepper, and that is ready to broil. So let's go ahead and get that cake out of the oven. A platter that we're going to turn the cake out onto here. All right. Hear the timer going. This looks done. So go ahead and turn your broiler on. I've got my broiler heating up, and here's the cake all baked. You can see it's nice and golden brown on top. And also, if I touch it in the middle, it bounces back. So if it wasn't done and I touched it in the middle, it would cave in and stay caved in. But if it's done, it kind of boing, bounces right back. So let's let that sit just a little tiny bit before we turn it out onto the platter. Let's see, how long do I say to let it cool? 5 minutes. We don't really have 5 minutes. We'll let it cool like a minute or so. But let's go ahead and get this in under the broiler. So you want your broiler on and hot. And we're going to cook this under the broiler. Keep our eye on it. And you just want to cook it till it's opaque. All right, which is literally like 1 to 2 minutes. Very fast. I'm going to stick it here. And I guess I should have mentioned, the plate that you use should be something that's oven proof, okay? It can go in the oven. I'm going to grab some tongs because I think I'm going to need them to grab the salmon. I'm also going to turn my light on so I can see what's going on there. Got it underneath the broiler. Yeah, this is the boring part. You're like waiting, right? I don't want to overcook it. Oh, it's already starting to cook. That's great. All right. Is there anything else we need to talk about before we finish?
Gail, we're curious. Why do you do it with the oven door open?
I'm just doing it so I can watch it and not let it go too far. Right? The element is lit up. You want me? I can close it.
No, we're just curious. It was interesting.
Trying to keep an eye on it. That's all. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put the platter for the orange cake on top of it, and we're going to flip it over, okay? Ready? Flip. Let it sit there just for a minute. So it's kind of like coming out of the pan now, hopefully. Let's check the salmon. I think it might be done, but I can't get it right. My tongues are like slipping. There we go. Yeah, that's it. That was it. That's all the time it took. So, see the salmon? See how it's opaque now? And it's salmon colored. It's like kind of peachy, light salmon color. So that's all cooked. That's the paillard. And now we're going to put the relish on top. Get one more spoon. There's one I haven't stuck in my mouth yet. So go ahead and just spoon that relish right over your salmon. A little on the plate as well. And if you've got a little juice going in with the relish there, try to scoop some of that up and put it over your salmon. And then let's do a big, there we go. And actually, I'm going to throw just going to tear a couple cilantro leaves over this for garnish. Now, this plate is hot. Remember that when you're serving it. But here's what the dish looks like done. Salmon paillard, wouldn't that go perfectly with just like a little Prosecco? Yes. Maybe I'll do this dish when we've got the brunch coming up. All right, let's see the cake. Let's get that cake out of its pan. Let's see. Hopefully it just comes right out. Oh, it did. It just plunked right out. Okay. So here's the cake.
That's beautiful, Gale. Yum.
Look at that. They come out great. I hope yours guys came out as easily as mine. It just came right out. And really, the oranges are doing all the work for you. Like, you don't have to frost this. You don't have to decorate it. It's already done. There we go. Any questions about what we did tonight? I hope I'm going to see you guys either at a demonstration or one of my classes.
We do have a question about what you're planning on making at Sunday brunch.
Don't know
yet.
Yet? Here's what happens. I like to know what the other chefs are making first so that what I make goes with it. Because, like, if we all decide to use mango, then it's too much mango. So usually I'll ask them to send me what the other chefs are doing so I know what not to make, especially if I'm dessert. I'm not sure. Have you guys picked what course I am, though?
I think your course number 2, but don't lock me to that.
Got it. So, it kind of depends on whether, like, did a cold course come before me? Is a cold course coming after me, or hot course? Like, how many? So yeah. That's like the dance. That's the dance of the chefs. So no, I don't know yet at all. And, we also have to see, like, what's in season, what the weather was like, to see, like, can we get figs? Can we not? All that. That's like the fun part of what I do.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to it, and we'll keep checking the website to see what you're going to be making, because we'll find out soon, I think.
Yeah, there's a point where you guys set a deadline. I'm like, okay, chefs, we got to know now, because everyone needs to know. But we usually can accommodate any dietary restrictions, so don't worry about that.
Fantastic. We're so excited. This looks delicious. So Gale, our demo is called Brunch Anytime. When would you normally have this meal?
This could be, brunch is, Saturday, Sunday, anywhere between 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock. But this would make a nice light supper as well. There's nothing more fun than breakfast for dinner, right? Like pancakes for dinner. So go ahead and have brunch for dinner one night. It's super fun. It's light. It's versatile. And, this is kind of low cal too, which is nice, but very fulfilling.
Well, we've really enjoyed it, Gale. We've learned a lot today. Never have made a cake in a skillet before, so super excited to try to do that. And always love learning new French techniques. So you definitely helped us out there for sure. So
Great.
just want to remind everyone that Gale will be at Palm Desert Food and Wine and doing a demo on Saturday, March 26th, and brunch with Bubbles and Spritz on Sunday. Super exciting. And we're so thrilled that our James Beard Award winner, Gale Gand, was with us this evening. Thanks so much, Gale, for your time. Really appreciate it. And everyone can buy tickets at palmdesertfoodandwine.com.
Hope to see you there. I can't wait to come to some nice warm weather. And thanks for joining me in my kitchen tonight at home. Appreciate it. Maybe I'll see you at a Kitchen Sisters cooking school class too. See you there.
Definitely. Take care, Gale. See
All
you
right,
soon.
good night. Good night,
Good night.
everybody. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us for Palm Desert Food and Wine virtual experience. We look forward to seeing you in person March 25th through March 27th at the Gardens on El Paseo. Register now at palmdesertfoodandwine.com. Thanks. Bye-bye.